gets worse seemingly every day. Joining me to discuss this is Federal Liberal Senator Sarah Henderson. Sarah, wonderful to have you on the show. Thank you for joining me. What did you make of IBAC's findings today?
Well, Cory, good evening. Great to join you. Well, there is no doubt there is something very rotten in the state of Victoria. This is a damning report which reflects on the administration by the Premier. And of course, it's clear, Cory, that this branch stacking, which has led to a gross misuse of public funds, has been going on for decades. It's also pretty clear, I think, that the Premier has known well and good what has been going on and has not acted. So, frankly, this is the guilty party all over again here in Victoria.
Yeah, it's frustrating for those of us who are observing this. You've got the Premier who says he's taken responsibility for the behaviour, but in taking responsibility, doesn't that mean there has to be some penalty attached to it? I mean, wouldn't we expect the person who accepts responsibility for this to immediately resign?
Cory, absolutely. The Premier should have resigned today. Already, of course, we've seen the scandal with the red shirts, the theft of taxpayers' money, which was funnelled into the Labor Party for campaigning purposes. The Victorian Ombudsman and the Commissioner, the IBAC Commissioner, were very critical that despite that terrible scandal back in 2018, almost nothing happened. So it is clear that Daniel Andrews and Labor here in Victoria do not take integrity seriously. They have really considered the whole thing to be a joke. They've been caught out again. This is beyond disgraceful. This is a complete and utter corruption scandal. And Daniel Andrews should have resigned today, and he's got plenty of opportunity, frankly, to resign tomorrow.
Well, Sarah, I've got to go into this direction, even though it might frustrate you a little bit. But this is a Premier who clearly feels that he has all the power, all the authority over what can only be described as a hapless Liberal opposition. I mean, earlier this week they outgreened the Greens with their 50% cuts in emissions. Matthew Guy doesn't seem to be challenging the Premier. Is his confidence, meaning Premier Andrews' confidence that he can survive this scandal, leaked to the weakness of the Liberal opposition?
Well, Cory, I don't agree with you. I think that Matthew Guy has well and truly taken this up to the Premier, as he has done ever since he became leader. I mean, the opposition in Victoria here today were absolutely brilliant in calling out this absolutely disgraceful conduct by Labor. And whether it's the 42 new charges and taxes, whether it's the $28 billion of cost blowouts on major projects, whether it's the red shirt scandal, whether it's the shocking health crisis which has led to the deaths of many Victorians, Matthew Guy has been incredible in calling out the incompetence of this government and, of course, this shocking smell of corruption. I hear what you say about the renewable target. I mean, we have our position, as you know, Cory, which is 26 to 28% lower emissions by 2030. So that's obviously different to the federal Liberal Nationals. But Matthew has been a real warrior. And let's face it, Daniel Andrews' time is over. I mean, this is the last straw. There is no way that Victorians can possibly vote for this man. Look at his management of the pandemic, the world's longest lockdown, the hotel quarantine scandal, which was a complete cover-up. All roads led to the Premier's office. We have seen in this state cover-up after cover-up, scandal after scandal, and the only way that is going to end is with the election of the Liberal Nationals in November of this year.
Yeah, Sarah, that is a most eloquent pitch for why Daniel Andrews and his government needs to go. It's not just the Premier that needs to go. All paths have led to his office, but he's been in charge of this and he's taken responsibility, but not really. Victoria does head to the polls in just over 4 months. Do you really think voters are going to remember this? Think how short-term their memories. You had Sluggate that's still going on. The lockdowns have gone on. People are still claiming he saved them from a fate worse than death. The red shirts, you go on, the branch stacking, all the things you mentioned. Will they remember this in 4 months' time?
And let's not forget there are more inquiry reports to be handed down. The Victorian Ombudsman is doing a brilliant job in exposing the politicisation of the public service, where it seems that all of Daniel Andrews' mates, or many of them, are in senior positions in the Victorian public service. Let's not forget the absolute scandal, Cory, where thousands of Victorians were locked out across the border, forced to sleep in their cars. Another example of gross mismanagement of the pandemic, led by a Premier who showed absolutely no care. I mean, that was such a scandal that constituted serious breaches of human rights, which again I called out at the time, and the Victorian Ombudsman also handed down a damning report. Victorians aren't stupid, Cory. They remember. They know that they have lived in this city and in this state which so punished Victorians needlessly, whether it was people not being able to attend funerals, the funeral of young people where there was this horrific and unjustified ban, whether it was these terrible curfews, again the breach of human rights, the scandal with the ambulance failures, the ramping, the complete breakdown of the health service in Victoria, the scandalous number of tax increases, 42 tax increases, despite the fact that Daniel Andrews said there would be no tax increases. I mean, this man, frankly, just lies through his teeth time and time again. He was asked today whether he had been a branch stacker. He fobbed off the journalist's questions. It was absolutely shocking and did not answer that question. But as we know, Adam Somyurek has given evidence that Daniel Andrews was a prime branch stacker back in the old days when he was running the ALP. Of course, there was also damning evidence, and this may well have Commonwealth and federal implications as well. Adam Somyurek also gave damning evidence in relation to federal MPs, such as Richard Marles, who apparently were sent down to Geelong, and part of the business model was to branch stack in Geelong, which of course is where my office is and where I have represented, and it's just absolutely shocking. So frankly, Victorians have had enough. Daniel Andrews, no apology will make any difference. He is no longer credible and he's got to go.
Well, Sarah Henderson, a most eloquent contribution. I absolutely agree with you, and so do our viewers. We're getting emails already saying, why isn't this lady leader of the Liberals in Victoria? But that would be a loss to the Senate.
Well,
so thank you for joining us tonight.
I am very happy.
I hope you're right.
Can I just say, Cory, I am very proud to be part of Peter Dutton's team as the Shadow Communications Minister and as a Victorian Liberal Senator. Matthew Guy is seriously doing an outstanding job. He will make a brilliant Premier, but the only way to change this culture of corruption, this disgusting behaviour that we are seeing in the Labor Party, led by Daniel Andrews, is frankly get rid of this man. We've had enough. As a Victorian, right. I've had enough, and we deserve better.
All right, let's see if we can get Matthew Guy on the show tomorrow night. Thank you, Sarah Henderson.